My name is Elizabeth. I am currently 34 weeks pregnant and have just started my maternity leave. In our 2-bedroom rental apartment, baby items are steadily accumulating, and I eagerly await the day I get to meet my baby. As I make coffee, I speak to my husband, Jack, who is struggling with assembling the baby bed while consulting the instruction manual. Let's take a break and have some coffee. I arranged a cup of black coffee for Jack's seat and a decaffeinated coffee for myself, then spread out a tin of cookies we had received as a gift. It smells good. Right? I ground beans for the first time in a while. I wish I could drink good coffee and alcohol. Can't wait to wean the baby. You're already talking about that, and the baby isn't even born yet. While laughing, Jack came over from assembling the baby crib and asked, "Is it difficult to assemble? I really wanted a round type, but maybe a square one would have been better." To which he replied, "It's cute and nice. We should buy furniture we like since it's always in sight." Spending a peaceful Saturday afternoon like this, I feel it's a luxury knowing soon we'll have to say goodbye to these moments. Well, these cookies are amazing. Where did you get them? That good? Chrissy went to France last week. It's a gift from there, from a famous store. Chrissy always picks great gifts. She knows good places to eat. Oh, ask him for a good place for our wedding anniversary. It'll probably be our last dinner out, just the two of us. So let's indulge in something delicious. Okay, I'll ask him. But maybe you should stop, or you'll get fat. Laughing, Elizabeth commented while watching Jack unable to stop reaching for cookies. Chrissy, a close friend since elementary school, often looked after Elizabeth, who was petite and clumsy since childhood. When I quit my job within a year of starting, Chrissy's father, who ran her own business, offered me a job. Chrissy's father runs his own business, using a prefab shed on their property as an office for motorcycle-related work. Gratefully accepting his offer, I have been working at Chrissy's father's company ever since. I was honestly surprised when Chrissy's father asked me, "Elizabeth, you're going to take maternity and parental leave, right? Can I really take maternity and parental leave?" Christina's father, "If you're coming back, I'll hire a part-timer for the period. It's easier to work with you around. But if you want to focus on parenting, don't feel pressured." Since it's a small company, I hadn't expected such employee benefits. Initially inclined towards resigning as a matter of course, I felt a mix of happiness and guilt. But I immediately responded with a firm "I'll return." Definitely. Jack was relieved to hear about the job security. That's a huge financial help. For this reason, having finished work last weekend, I am now enjoying a leisurely and comfortable maternity life starting this week. What shall I do every day until the birth? Just relax. It's going to be tough once the baby is born. I can't imagine what it's like, but I'm already bored and have too much time on my hands this week. All the baby stuff is ready, and there's no reason to go out except for checkups. I heard walking a lot makes childbirth easier. It's cold and chilly outdoors in January, so why not stroll around a shopping mall? Window shopping sounds good, right? Hearing this from Jack, I decided to visit the shopping mall next week, wandering around for hours with the sole purpose of walking. That day, tired of the usual mall, I ventured to a larger mall 2 stations away. Entering the final month of pregnancy, my belly was getting noticeably heavier, so I walked around the mall, taking breaks on benches. Despite the change of scenery, I was excited to be in a different mall. As I was about to stand up, I suddenly saw Chrissy. Chrissy works at a beauty salon and has weekdays off. Delighted, I stood up to invite her for coffee and called out, "Chrissy." Chrissy, not recognizing where the call came from, looked around puzzled, then walked away without noticing me. Just as I was about to follow her, a familiar voice said, "Christina, sorry to keep you waiting," and walked past me. I froze as I recognized the man's back. It was Jack. Shocked, I quickly turned away to hide my face. "Jack, you're late." Sorry, I was held up at a client's. It took longer than expected." "That's terrible." "Yo, I don't have much time because of the delay. What do you want to do? Oh, never mind. Let's just have lunch somewhere. Saying this, Chrissy intertwined her fingers with Jack's, and they started walking towards the escalator. Hiding, I watched them, feeling like I was in a nightmare. What was going on? I wanted to believe there was a reason, like Jack was picking out a surprise baby item for me. But forcing such reasons felt futile. A married man walking hand in hand with another woman usually means one thing. And Jack never calls Chrissy Christina in front of me. The reality hit me hard. They were having an affair. Stunned, I couldn't bring myself to follow them further and left the mall, head bowed. Sitting on the sofa at home, feeling my heart beat faster, anger towards Jack grew. Why? The more I thought about it, the more impossible it seemed. Why now when I'm about to give birth? Why with my best friend? Why someone our families are closely involved with? Why the daughter of my employer? Pursuing the affair between Jack and Chrissy meant, in essence, losing my husband, my best friend, and my job all at once. Feeling my lips quivering and overwhelmed by a sense of anger with nowhere to go, I shouted, "Enough with the mockery," and threw a cushion onto the floor in a fit of temper. Feeling like a blood vessel in my head might burst from the excitement, I took deep breaths to calm down. When I bent down to pick up the cushion, my protruding belly got in the way and I couldn't see it. Stroking my belly, where my baby was, I apologized to the baby in my mind, and then I broke down crying right there. There's no greater betrayal than this. I didn't want to be home. I didn't know how to face Jack when he returned, but I didn't want him to know I was aware of the affair. After crying, I showered, redid my makeup, and tried to compose myself. Despite my swollen eyes, I cooked dinner, trying to act normal when Jack arrived. "I'm home." He returned as usual, whistling while washing his hands, cheerfully smelling dinner, and thanking me for my day. His attitude was unchanged, but the way I looked at him was ice cold. "Did you walk around the mall today?" "Yes. The heating is on, so no need for a coat. I have to walk a lot for an easy delivery." "Huh? Do your eyes look swollen?" "Yes. After coming back home and eating peanuts, my eyes started itching. I rubbed them a lot. I don't have a peanut allergy, so I wonder why." I smoothly rattled off the excuse I had thought up in advance. "Really? Maybe you're more delicate because of the pregnancy. Be careful, okay? Maybe avoid peanuts for a while." "Yay, that sounds good." Relieved that my lie worked, I set the dinner table. "By the way, did you ask Chrissy about the dinner restaurant? We need to book it soon." Startled by Jack casually mentioning Chrissy, I tensed up. "Can we cancel the dinner?" Why? Because, like today, my eyes suddenly swelled up. I'm scared something might happen at the restaurant. I was looking forward to our last date, but okay. Your health is the most important. All right, I understand. I clenched my fist under the table, but Jack nonchalantly finished dinner and started playing video games on the living room sofa as usual. I watched his back with bitterness while cleaning up the kitchen, but Jack, absorbed in his game, didn't notice my cold gaze. For days, I was consumed by anger and sadness, unable to think. As time passed, I started seeing reality more clearly. The baby in my belly was due any moment. I had to think about how to live our future. Should I make my child fatherless? Or is it better not to have a father like Jack from the start? I chose the latter. Once decided, I quickly started gathering evidence of Jack and Chrissy's affair. I had never checked before, but logging into the credit card company's website from Jack's computer, I easily accessed his statements. Until I saw them at the mall, I never suspected Jack of cheating, but the statements showed his infidelity going back a long time. There were purchases from women's brand stores and bills from fancy restaurants we never visited together. And the week Chrissy went to France, Jack had arranged flights and hotels. He said he was on a business trip, but he was actually on a romantic getaway with my childhood friend. They probably chose the cookie tin as a souvenir for me. He pretended to be impressed by it in front of me. Jack and I kept our finances separate even after marriage, so I had no idea he was spending so much. When I found his bank book and checked, there was hardly any savings. Trust is a scary thing. Once you find a flaw, the whole facade unravels quickly, and I realized how easily I had been deceived. The worst, any remaining affection or attachment I felt vanished completely. The physical evidence should be enough. Now I want to catch them together. I won't be able to move freely after the baby is born. I want to settle this before the birth. I have a business trip next week. Oh, where to? Is it overnight? To the LA branch. But that's around my due date. First births often get delayed, but I'm worried. It's just for one night, so it should be fine. It's a work thing. I have to go. If anything happens, I'll fly back right away. As soon as Jack, who had just decided to go on a business trip, came home, I spoke with a surprised tone. In truth, I knew his destination wasn't LA. I had seen from his credit card history that he had booked a flight and hotel for next week. The hotel's name included San Francisco. Jack's company has a branch in San Francisco, so at that moment, I couldn't be sure. But when he said it was a business trip to LA, I knew for certain it was a lie. Isn't there any way you can avoid it? I don't want to spend the night alone. But it's not certain that the baby will be born on that exact day, right? I was beyond angry, now just astonished, that he would plan a cheating trip even during the week of my due date. Clearly, Jack no longer loved me. I felt like crying out of frustration, but Jack, misinterpreting my tears as anxiety, hugged me and confidently said something he couldn't possibly guarantee. It's okay, I'll rush back even in the middle of the night. Feeling nauseated by Jack's touch, I gently pushed him away and said, I see, it's work, so it can't be helped. Sorry for being selfish. Next week would be critical. Whether labor would start before his trip or not. My priority was to safely deliver the baby, but I desperately wanted to catch them together. I had to figure out a way to be prepared for any scenario. The following week, my belly still large, the day of Jack's fake business trip arrived. As Jack cheerfully packed his suitcase, I commented, "You seem quite happy for a business trip." He hastily replied, "Not at all. It's work. It's not fun," and got defensive. Ideally, I would have followed Jack myself, but given my current condition, I decided to ask my brother for help. After telling him everything, he was, understandably, furious. My brother and Chrissy's brother were classmates and still in touch. He couldn't let it go, so he agreed to wait at the airport. I had decided to trust my brother with the situation, but the timing couldn't have been worse. Just as Jack was about to leave the house, I felt a pain in my stomach. Ouch! At first, I thought it was my imagination, but then a stronger pain hit, and I was sure. No, it seems like it's starting. You're kidding. Right now, when I'm about to leave. Jack looked pale as he peered at me. Are you okay? Can you go to the hospital by taxi alone? Aren't you going to take me? Aren't you going to be there? But you know I have to go now. Didn't you say you'd fly back if anything happened? Barely able to breathe, I glared at Jack, clutching his shirt. After a moment of silence, he said, "All right, I'll grab the car keys. Wait here," and went back to the living room. I wondered why it took so long just to get the keys. Finally, he returned and carried me on his shoulder. "Can you walk?" "Yes, but it hurts." Gritting my teeth, I got into the car. Jack drove recklessly. It was about a 20-minute drive to the hospital. I endured the pain, reclining in the passenger seat. There was no time to contact my brother. When we were 3 traffic lights away from the hospital, Jack's phone rang. He tensed up, but then the light turned green, and he had to drive on. The phone, connected to the car via Bluetooth, displayed Christine on the navigation screen. I mustered all my energy and touched the call button on the screen. "Hey, stop it," Jack yelled, but I was quicker. The next moment, Chrissy's furious voice came through. Jack, I just checked Messenger. What's going on? I'm already on my way to the airport. Canceling on the day itself is just too cruel. You could have just left Elizabeth with an ambulance. If you come now, you can still make it. Come quickly. I couldn't tell if it was the pain in my body or my heart that ached more at Chrissy's words, but I screamed something unintelligible. Jack hastily ended the call and continued driving in silence. Then, unbelievably, he pulled up to the hospital's roundabout, yanked my arm, and dragged me out of the passenger seat. I fell to the ground with too much momentum. You'll manage from here, right? I'm going to go on my business trip now. Good luck with the birth. Saying this, he jumped into the car, sped off, and disappeared. People at the roundabout, shocked by the unbelievable scene, rushed into the hospital to call for help. Unable to think anymore, I was quickly taken inside by the nurses and doctors who came running out. Eventually, I lost consciousness due to the immense mental shock and apparently delivered my child through a cesarean section. When I next awoke, everything was over. As I opened my eyes, the white hospital ceiling slowly came into view, and I was addressed by a nurse. Mrs. Elizabeth Carter, can you understand me? Yes. You're in the hospital. Do you understand? Yes. Your baby was born safely. It's a boy. Hearing this, I covered my face with both hands and wept. Who could have imagined such a birth? Not me, 2 months ago. Even after learning about Jack and Victor's affair and feeling despair, I never thought it would go this far. To abandon a wife in labor for a mistress, is that even human? The nurse, Diane, seemed lost for words at my state, but returned after a while with my baby. Here's your baby. Holding my small, warm child for the first time, I was overwhelmed with guilt for giving him such a father. It's better for him not to know his father. I muttered this to the nurse. Jack returned to the hospital 6 hours after I regained consciousness, by which time it was already dark outside. Jack, coming up to the maternity ward through the night corridor, didn't speak to the nurse's station, but wandered, looking for my name on the door of the hospital rooms. Fortunately, Diane, who happened to be my nurse, recognized him and approached him from behind. Are you looking for someone? Please, you need to write in the visitor's book at the nurse's station. I'm the husband of Elizabeth Carter, who was admitted this morning. Mrs. Carter's, I see. Please come this way. Diane led Jack to an empty lobby chair, then excused herself momentarily to return to the nurse's station before coming back. My wife, she's gone. What? Jack stared blankly at Diane, not comprehending her words. You won't be able to see Elizabeth and the baby here. Unfortunately, they're not here. What do you mean? The shock of you dragging her out of the car and leaving her at the hospital entrance was too much. She was conscious until we got her to the delivery room, but then she lost consciousness. Just from that, it can't lead to the worst case scenario, can it? The worst case scenario? What do you mean by that? I think, for Elizabeth and her baby, you are the person who caused the worst case scenario. What the heck? That's rude. Anyway, let me see Elizabeth. I'm her husband. Just as Jack was getting agitated, the elevator doors opened, and a man stepped out. You're Mr. Jack Carter, right? Huh? Who are you? I'm attorney Victor Campbell. I've come to greet you as the representative of Elizabeth Horiuchi. Saying this, the man handed Jack a business card. A lawyer? Jack looked at the man with a startled expression. Yes, Elizabeth has expressed her desire to dissolve her marriage with you and has directly requested my services. Wait, didn't Diane just say Elizabeth died? Jack glared fiercely at Diane. I didn't say that. I said she's gone. It's not a lie. Elizabeth isn't here in this hospital, right, Mr. Campbell? Yes. The hospital surveillance camera clearly captured you dragging Elizabeth out of the car. It was deemed extremely dangerous, so Elizabeth and her child have been taken into protection. I can't disclose the location of the hospital where they've been transferred. Why, I properly dropped her off at the hospital. How is that violent? I even came back from my overnight work in one day. You were supposed to be on a business trip to San Francisco, right? Tough job. Yes. I hurried back from San Francisco because I was worried about Elizabeth. What fault do you find with me? Lawyer Victor reportedly chuckled at Jack's response. What's so funny? Sorry, it's just surprising how easily you fell for it. Jack, weren't you supposed to be on a business trip to LA today? That's what Elizabeth heard from you. Jack seemed to realize his slip-up and suddenly started sweating profusely. Your destination was San Francisco. You were planning a one-night trip with Christina Miller, not footwork. Isn't that right? Did you forget that Elizabeth heard Christina's phone call in the car? That was a wrong number call, and I was just as surprised. I hung up immediately. I don't know anything about a call from Christina Miller. It was just a strange voice. Elizabeth must have been confused because of the labor pain. So, you're claiming your innocence in relation to Christina, correct? Of course. Just stop this nonsense. Understood. I'll convey that to Elizabeth. I'll take my leave for today. Hey, wait. Let me see Elizabeth and the child, Jack shouted. But Lawyer Victor politely bowed and left the hospital. Thank you for all your help. With Diane's cooperation, I had managed to transfer to another hospital with my child. The next day, I thanked Lawyer Victor after hearing everything. Well, he vehemently denied everything, but we have plenty of evidence you gathered. The hospital security footage, and the clincher. The photos your brother took at the airport of the two of them together. There's no way he can escape it now. We've also confirmed that he wasn't on a business trip to either LA or San Francisco. I can't believe I ever fell in love and married such a man. I've finally woken up. I said this while looking at my sleeping child in my arms. It's good that you no longer have feelings for him. It will make the divorce proceedings easier for you. I've seen many divorces in my line of work, but rarely someone like your husband. It's quite embarrassing. Well, Jack will probably get a lawyer and start making his moves, so we'll just observe for now. Please focus on your postpartum recovery, Elizabeth. I'll proceed with the preparations. Thank you. The 4-person hospital room was full, and in the evening, new fathers who had left work early came one after another, filling the room with happy laughter. The sound was painfully loud to my ears, and I thought about asking for a private room, but I endured it, telling myself there would be many more such moments in the future. My brother's visit at the last minute of visiting hours was a huge relief. Sorry for all the trouble, big brother. The first thing I did was apologize, but my brother gently shook his head. So cute, so tiny. He picked up the baby, looking lovingly at the new member of the family, then turned to me seriously and said, "Today, Dad and Mom behaved well. They're too tired to visit, but they said congratulations." Thank you. I'm really grateful. I'll properly thank everyone once things settle down. Don't mention it. As the nurse indicated the end of visiting hours, my brother left, saying goodbye. On the day of my discharge, my brother, who had taken a day off, came to pick me up, and we headed to our grandparents' vacant house. I chose to go there instead of returning home, anticipating that Jack might come looking for me. Jack didn't know about my grandparents' house, so I decided to start my new life there with my child. When I arrived, my parents rushed out, hugged me, and cried, saying how hard it had been. As you said, we moved your baby items and your stuff from the apartment here. If you've forgotten anything, we'll go back and get it. Thank you. I'll buy whatever's missing. Sorry for making you help me flee in broad daylight. The house was tidy, cleaned, and dust-free. I was deeply grateful for my parents' efforts to prepare the place for me and my baby. During the weekend of my discharge week, Jack predictably visited my parents' house. Unexpectedly, instead of storming in angrily, he came with a trembling voice, looking as if he was about to cry. My brother dealt with him, saying, "Elizabeth won't see you." Despite this, Jack stubbornly refused to leave the entrance. When threatened with calling the police, Jack broke down, begging, "I've broken up with Christina. I want to start over. Please forgive me." My brother, worn down, conceded. Only a phone call then, and called my new mobile number from his smartphone. Jack, given the condition that the call be on speaker so my brother could also hear, obediently complied. Elizabeth, I was wrong. I'll take care of you and the baby from now on. Let's start over. Do you realize what you've done? Thrown out with such force, the baby could have been in danger. I will never forgive you. I have no intention of starting over. We'll only discuss through lawyers now. No, Christina left me, and if you leave too, what am I supposed to do? Wait, Chrissy left you. They're not trying to reconcile out of remorse, but because she dumped you. Unbelievable. It's not even worth discussing. Take responsibility for your actions. Goodbye and don't call again. After saying this, I hung up. My brother took the phone, telling Jack, "This is your final warning. Leave now, or I'll call the police in 5 minutes." He then went inside. Peeking out the window, I saw Jack slowly walking away, his head down. Thanks to Victor's efficient handling, the divorce was finalized smoothly, and I was able to celebrate Haruma's half birthday with a clear mind. Jack didn't have the savings to pay the compensation, so his parents paid it on his behalf. Victor arranged for a significant portion of Jack's salary to be garnished and made him sign a pledge to repay quickly. I also claimed compensation from Chrissy. I owed a lot to Chrissy and her father, and I hesitated to demand the standard amount for infidelity, but her father, completely on my side, encouraged me. That stupid daughter. Don't hold back, Elizabeth. Give her what she deserves. That'll teach her a lesson. He even cried out of frustration. Recently, Chrissy contacted me through my brother, wanting to meet. I agreed, choosing a child-friendly cafe near my parents' house. Chrissy, thinner and more lifeless than before, appeared. Chrissy confessed that she had always been stressed about me since we were young. Elizabeth always lagged behind, causing trouble for others, yet somehow she was always loved. Whenever in trouble, someone would always rescue her. It annoyed me, she said. So you think that justifies getting involved with someone else's husband? I always thought I'd be the first to help Chrissy in trouble, that I owed you a lot, I said, and for a moment, she looked like she might cry but held back, replying coldly, whatever. You really can't do anything right, choosing such a lousy man. Just so you know, I never had romantic feelings for Jack. I approached him just to hurt you. Thanks for making me realize what a shallow, heartless man he is. She stood up, leaving a thick envelope of compensation on the table, muttered a small apology, and left. Chrissy moved out after that incident, and I decided to resign from her father's company. Without a daycare spot, I'm living off savings for a while, but I plan to find a job when Hugo turns 1. This whole ordeal made me realize the complacency in myself, just as Chrissy said. Now I see this experience as a trial for raising Hugo. From now on, it's not just my life. I vowed to become stronger and protect